Hello boys and girls, it's time for another short video I guess. I'll start off by saying that I already made this video once. I fucking edited it, rendered it and everything about the file corruptor, and I had to do it again, so excuse me if I sound like a robot or something. I might be a bit frustrated. Anyway, I already did the video on Cloud Rust +3, so this is more for this is kind of a universal build for the sorcerer. Basic build for all the other trials really, except for Asylum. Asylum is a bit different for sorcerer, if you are interrupting, that is. But yeah, I will start off by showing the parse, and that's as I always do. 47k single, I don't know if that's good, to be honest. You can probably get a lot more. Maybe if somebody is giving you drain, you can maybe get 50 plus. But it's not that important really. But what I wanted to talk about here is the Absorb Magicka Cliff. 143 Magicka per second, which kind of translates to 300 Magicka recovery here. So that's huge. It also deals quite a bit of damage. 1700 here. Well, the fire weapon, the 3200, so you can't really compare these two. I guess if you are using a shock cliff instead, that would also deal just about 3k, something like that. But you would obviously be lacking the sustain. And every sorcerer main knows that sustain is really tough on sorcerer. Well, sustain currently is really tough on all the other classes except for Nightblade, which is kind of silly. But that's how the state of the game is, and we just have to wait for the next update when they will apparently fix the sustain for all other classes or just balance it altogether. But until then, I mean, every sorcerer main knows that you can't really sustain the 3 mil dummy without external support or cheesing your potion or doing heavy attacks. But with this Absorb Magicka Cliff you can actually do it really well. And you can also do the 6 mil if somebody gives you orbs, but that's a bit tough. On solo, so I just did the 3 mil instead. Yeah, nothing too important here other than that really. I will go over the skill setup quickly. The front bar, it's really the same as always. You need frags, you need your spammable. This time it's an elemental weapon instead of force pulse. It's just cheaper, more damage. Kind of the obvious choice, unless there's some AoE action going on, but this is a single target build for single target fights, so we'll be using that. You have Inner Light, you have Bound Ages here, giving you max Magicka. And you can also use Endless Fury or the other morph. I use this currently because we're playing Cloud Rest and I can't be asked remorphing this every time I go somewhere else on Sorcerer, which is basically never, so... obviously use the other morph. I can't really remember the name, but it deals AoE damage when it blows up, so that is, generally speaking, better for PvE purposes. We have Destro ulti here. We need one Destro ability here on the front bar to get the Ancient Knowledge passive, which means that increases your damage done with single target abilities by 8%. So that is pretty huge. You can't really use Meteor here like you would often do if you had Force Pulse as a spammable. The back bar, I had Drain obviously, but here we want to use a ward instead, empowered ward preferably. It gives your teammates some sustain. If you're a really experienced player and the fight is somewhat simple and easy, you can also use In Light here. You don't really need a shield in most content in this game nowadays, to be honest, but if you're a less experienced player, I would always opt with a ward here. That is your strongest safety tool by far. We have our dots here, both on the back bar, unlike we did on Dragon Bones. On Dragon Bones we simply had Liquid Lightning on the front bar, or some people had, I at least had, to be able to bar swap cancel Liquid Lightning instead of Force Pulse, because Asylum stuff did not apply the status effects if you bar swap cancel the Force Pulse, but now there is no reason to actually do it, or actually to have Liquid on the front bar. Another funny thing now that the enchants changed, we can actually just spam Endless Fury on the front bar without worrying about Berserker dropping from the back bar. Well, first of all, we don't have Berserker glyph on this build anymore, but now that Blockade actually procs the back bar enchant continuously, it's we don't have to visit the back bar, we can just keep Blockade up, so that's 8 seconds in execute, we can just spam this on the front bar. We have Curse. Curse is... I don't really like the ability, it's not that strong, so for some stuff in the game I might even just put a Mage's Guild ability here and just not use Curse at all, and not really use this either. It's a weak ability, but I would just do one more spammable per rotation every time, so... I don't know, if you want to use Curse, go ahead, it's slightly more DPS, but it's also one more ability that you have to use and spend Magicka on. Then we have Bone Ages, just for max Magicka, and the Greatest Storm Atronach. That is our strongest ultimate, best for single target, it's stronger than Meteor, it's stronger than Destro, so use this. Even if nobody grabs the synergy, it's still gonna be the strongest ultimate that you have for single target. And when somebody grabs the synergy, let's say a Stamina Nightblade in execute phase grabs the synergy, his DPS is gonna shoot up by about 20k, maybe even more, so that is a huge DPS, group DPS increase from the synergy alone. One of the greatest tools that the Sorcerer has currently, with the Conduit synergy, obviously. Yeah, the build itself, I'm using Slimecrow here. Just that the meta currently is that you're gonna be playing with all Nightblades really, and Nightblades do not need combat prayer from the healer, so I don't think the healer should be using combat prayer only for you. In some cases you might have a Stampler with you in the group, or maybe even some other non-Magblade or non-Stamblades in the group if your group is not that optimized, but currently in most score runs, high tier endgame content, you will only have Nightblades really with you, so I would not make your healer use combat prayer. Just do this. If you have more than 2 non-Nightblades in your group, you can just use Zaan for melee fights or Ilambris for non-melee fights. Siroria, really the strongest all-around set for all Magicka characters at the moment. Even if you have to move around, it's a very strong contender for Burning Spellweave, but you can also use Burning Spellweave instead of this if you for some reason cannot keep the stacks up on Siroria. Second set is Mother's Sorrow, we have it on the front bar only, and that is best in slot, but there are also alternatives for Mother's Sorrow. You can use Scathing Mage, you can use Burning Spellweave, you can use Acuity or even Julianos. All of those are gonna be a bit less DPS than Mother's Sorrow, so if you have this, just use it. It's best in slot. The enchants, as I said, on the front bar we have the Absorb Magicka. The back bar enchant procs a bit more often, so I think we'd rather have Fire Weapon on the back bar. And when we go into prismatic fights, we also want to have the prismatic enchant here on the back bar. But yeah, I think this Absorb Magicka glyph is really good for your sustain. I like sustain in the way that it really allows you to do anything. You don't have to depend on synergies, you don't have to depend on anything else. You can just do your rotation without worrying about anything. But if you play in an experienced group, the fight is short, all that, so you can just use a shock enchant instead. It's gonna be more DPS for you. But in most cases, I would say that less experienced groups, you are not gonna be getting as many synergies, and the fights are obviously gonna be longer as well because of lower DPS in the group, so... Absorb Magicka, really nice glyph, in my opinion. We are a vampire and sorcerer, you can't sustain otherwise, using the Thief wonders. And obviously the regen food as well. You can also, for some content, shorter fights, you can also go with the dual stat food, but that is, we're talking about high end game content there. I'll go over the CPs quickly. Elfborn, as long as the crit meta exists, we have really close to 80% crit. This is gonna be the strongest CP branch here by far. Elemental Expert, not that important. spell erosion. I currently have 19 here. If the group is less experienced, you might want to go up to 25, even 30. 16 is enough if the uptimes are perfect on all the debuffs, but that is never going to be the case, even on really static bosses like Rakotu or Valaria, so I would always just go a bit overboard here. Master at Arms, important as well. We have a lot of direct damage from our spammable as well as the frags. Staff Expert, this is another not so important branch here, but these points are just really cheap. I mean, I only have 19 points here and already I'm getting 12% increase on my light and heavy attack damage, so it's definitely worth dropping some points in this branch as well. 44 points currently in Thaumaturge. For off-balance fights, we want to have 75 here for this passive. It will make your damage a bit better. So in order to achieve this, we can just grab points out of Elemental Expert. Let's go that far. Staff Expert also. Some points out of there, and I think we have to get some out of Spell Erosion as well. Sorry, and Master Arms. Yeah. And that should do it. So 75 here, and we get the Exploiter passive, and that should be best in slot CPs for off-balance fights, where the off-balance uptime is actually high. Also on the green tree here, I like to have 100 into Arcanist. I just feel like, even though these are really expensive points after 75, I still prefer the 1% extra sustain compared to any stamina passives here. But if you have the bad habit of, let's say, sprinting around a lot, then you might want to put the points in here instead, so you have more stamina. There might be cases where you run out of stamina and die because of that, but it never happens to me. I feel like you just need to get better at managing your stamina in that case. But yeah, you can take 1% out of this and put it into other stuff here. I think I went through everything, but that is probably a lie. I know that I forgot a shit ton of stuff. So I will actually, in the description, I will link a written guide made by Tabatta that should really go through everything, all the questions that you might have about the build. So she's probably done a way better job at explaining the class than I have. She also has a rotation guide in there and really everything you need to know about the Magicka sorcerer. So check that out, of course, along with this video. But yeah, I think that's all for me, and see you guys.